Hey y'all, happy Friday. Happy preparation for your Sabbath. It's the weekend, baby. Anyway, you guys know on Fridays, I like to give you guys something to do. It's going to help you prosper in your future or your near future to come. And earlier I read my short from 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 34. KJV version reads as follows. There is a difference also between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman careth for the things of the Lord, that she may be holy in body and in spirit. But she that is married careth for the things of the world, how she may please her husband. So if you guys want to know the difference between a righteous wife and a righteous virgin, there it is, okay? In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 34. So in other words, right, those who are righteously married are attend to their husbands and wives, which is pleasing to the Father's eyes, but nevertheless they will have trouble in their flesh. And on the other hand, those who have maintained their innocence, right, or who are still virgins, will be considered better and happier in the Lord's eyes because they've overcome their flesh, like a nun. Right? So basically, per word is two things for a woman, a wife or a virgin, right? Nothing else in between. But the world, the people in the world has made, basically the wife and the virgin to mean of no value, right? The wife can be a wife 25,000 times, okay? She can go cheat on her husband. She can open swingers up there, right? Even remember, being a husband and a wife is pleasing to the Lord if it's done in holy matrimony, right? However, if you consider yourself to be a wife, right, who have a husband, who don't submit to her husband, who cheat on him and everything, right, she thinks she the man in the relationship, right, she running the show and everything, that would not be pleasing to the Father's eyes, right, because you wouldn't be considered a righteous wife. You will be considered a worldly wife, right? Now, although a wife attend to the things of the world, which will be her children, her family, her husband, right? Which is pleasing to the Lord's eyes, right? They'll be pleasing if she was righteously performing her wifely duties. On the other hand, if she a wife and she performing single duties, right, then that's not pleasing to the Father's eyes, right? Because that covenant has been breached, right? Remember, being married, right, is pleasing to the Father's eyes, but you attending to your husband, your children, your family, right, your home righteously, right? So if you're not, if you're not consider yourself to be a righteous wife, what kind of wife you consider yourself to be? Because anything other than a righteous wife, which is pleasing to the Father's eyes, you're not pleasing to the Father at all. You're pleasing the world, for man and woman, for yourself, for your own happiness, right? And on the other hand, a virgin would, the Father considers to be much more pleasing, right? And much more a better person, because why? The unmarried woman or the righteous virgin attend to the Father's needs. Therefore, she go out there and edify, right? She attend to the Father's needs so that her body may be holy, right, in spirit and everything, okay? And that her body may be holy and be holy in body and in spirit. That is an unmarried woman or a virgin. So remember, it's only really a wife and a virgin. Now, man has made everything around it, right? But to get back, why the Father feel like a virgin or those who still maintain their innocence is better, is because they don't have any distractions of the world. They don't have distractions from the world to bother them, right? So by them not allowing their flesh to be touched, right, and maintain their innocence, right, how can man distract them when they have attempted, right, to expose themselves to the world, right? So remember, a righteous virgin attend to the Father's needs, right, so that she may be holy in body and spirit. And the reason why that she can be holy in body and spirit is because she don't have distractions from the world and her flesh. And her flesh would not be troubled because it has not been touched. But the only thing she want to do is be pleasing to the Father and be his servant and be an edifier for the servant, glorifying the Father like a righteous nun. See? So now, If you don't have a husband or you don't consider being wife, then you would be considered a virgin and a nun. But of course, we're not in that time right now, right? Yeah, you can be everything, and other than a wife and a virgin, right? You can be a fornicator, right? You can be a swinger. You can be a cheater, right? Right? All these things is outside the definition of being a righteous wife and a righteous virgin, right? All these things man-made, right? These are man-made commandments is the reason why everybody's flesh is suffering so much, right? And why they can't get a righteous husband or a righteous wife, because why? They stepped out the boundaries of this, right? And what did the Father say too? That a person will be happier if if they are a virgin, right? They will be better. They will be happy because their flesh is not subjected. Do you see that? So when you do go have sex or, be consecrated with your marriage, remember, you're going to have problems because you have, exposed your flesh, right? To being touched, to being made feel good, right? So nevertheless, throughout your marriage, you're going to be emotional, out of control, sometimes unhinged because the flesh has been touched, right? Therefore, you attending to the world. So it'll push you away from the Father because, yes, you did get married and it is pleasing in the Father's eyes. However, it is of the world. And because you're of the world, you got to tend with the people of the world, right? And because you allowed your flesh to be a part of the world, now you got to control your flesh, and that's trouble. That's trouble because the flesh can become emotional, unbalanced, right? Crazy, unhinged, all because these feelings you receive from that person that you expose your flesh to, right? And that's a married woman or a married man. So again, it is pleasing to the Father's eyes, right? Nevertheless, it will trouble your flesh, right? And again, on the other hand, the virgin, they don't have to worry about, having trouble in their flesh because they haven't opened their flesh up to anybody. Instead, they giving themselves up to the Father, like a nun, right? Which is more pleasing to the Father's eyes and better because, again, they don't have any distractions from the world. So, of course, their life would be 100 times better because they're not going to experience any trouble in the flesh, right? They're going to submit to the Father, and it's the Father going to guide them, so they had no need to experience flesh in the experience any trouble in the flesh because they've overcome the flesh. You see that? All right. So for this weekend, I want you to ask yourself, right? Which one are you? Would you be considered a righteous wife or a righteous virgin? Or do you not fit in that category because you decided to become, maybe in your mind, a righteous fornicator, a righteous swinger, right? A righteous side chick, a righteous mistress, all the things, right, that will trouble your flesh, right, because you decide not to be a righteous wife. So are you one of those things, right? Or do you consider yourself to still be a righteous virgin who is pleasing to the Father? Or let's just see, well, I can't even go no other way from righteous virgin. You see that? I'm stuck. Because if you're a righteous virgin, you attend to the Father. There's no trouble in the flesh. As you see, I can't go on with a righteous virgin because that's nothing to compare to a righteous virgin, because a righteous virgin is perfect. At least almost, right? And the reason why I say perfect, because that person to me would be almost considered perfect because they won't have trouble in their flesh in this world, because they've overcome the flesh like a nun and dedicate their whole life to the Father for righteousness, for the Father to lead them, so they won't have a reason, right, or have any problems with trouble in their flesh. So ask yourself, which one are you? Are you a righteous wife or a righteous virgin, right? Anything out of that is only your commandment. So you only can be a righteous wife or a righteous virgin, right? Anything out of that, like other than a righteous wife or a righteous virgin, is a fornicator, a cheater, a slicker, a shyster, a swinger, okay? Somebody who don't want to please the Father, you see? Because remember, there's only two things again, right? What is the difference between a righteous wife and a righteous virgin? There is no gray area. Again, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 34, and of course it's from Paul. And because Paul had the Spirit of the Father, this is what the Father led Paul to write, okay? Chapter 7, verse 34, KJV version reads as follows in 1 Corinthians. What is the difference between a righteous wife and a virgin? Again, there's a difference also between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman careth for the things of the Lord, that she may be holy in body and in spirit. But she that is married careth for the things of the world, how she may please her husband. So in other words, those who are righteously married attend to their husbands and wives, which are things of the world, but is pleasing in the Father's eyes. Nevertheless, they will have trouble in their flesh. On the other hand, those who has maintained their innocence or who are still virgins will be considered better and happier in the Lord's eyes, because they've overcome their flesh like a nun. So you see, it's black and white, right? A married wife is pleasing to the Father's eyes, who attends to the things of the world like her children. But it is pleasing to the Father's eyes because it's on a covenant, right? It's on a holy matrimony. Nevertheless, that person will experience troublesome in their flesh because of all the emotions they're going to experience throughout their life, right? Receiving from their husband or wife that put them through. Okay, on the other hand, that person who has maintained their innocence or who is still a virgin, in the Father's eyes will be considered better and happier, right? Because they've overcome their flesh like a nun. In fact, they don't want to get a flesh in the world. They rather be a servant to the Father, so they don't experience all these troublesome fleshly things that those of us who decide to get married experience. All right? So again, ask yourself, would you consider yourself to be a righteous wife or a righteous virgin? Ain't nothing else in between. Anything out of that is all in your mind and what you created and not pleasing to the Father. So which one is you? Bye now. Oh, happy Sabbath. Happy preparation for your Sabbath. Bye now. Love y'all. Peace.